serving the United States, everything from flying helicopters in Vietnam to testifying on Capitol Hill. He's a guy that's running for Congress in our 1st district. He's someone that deserves everybody's consideration, and when the time comes, certainly your vote. And without getting all flowery and a whole bunch of other stuff, please meet General Jack Bergman. Thank you.
Am I in the spotlight? I feel like, who's the newest bride here? Because I feel like the dad coming out, we should do the father-daughter dance right now. Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, number one, thanks for coming out today. I know that you all probably had other things you could be doing, but I believe you prioritized maybe today coming out was something that was important to you. And that's one of the reasons I'm standing here in front of you today, is because we all believe, just like we the people, we all believe that what we have in this country is worth fighting for in many ways. So that is one of the primary reasons that I have put my hat and my hat with my wallet in my hat into the ring to become the next congressman from the 1st District of Michigan. Now, I have to ask a question. I spoke too many times in uniform to crowds, and usually I would ask, is there anyone here representing the press? Okay. Hi, Randy. Is there anyone here representing other political parties? Any other folks within running for the same seat I am? All right.
Jason hasn't showed up.
Yeah, I can't see you, so the bottom line is you could be raising your hand, and I don't know. The reality is, because we are a free country, everybody is welcome. Everybody's opinion counts, and everybody's vote matters. What is not welcome is that any group or any individual tries to stifle that freedom. Because we are a country based on unprecedented individual freedoms in the recorded history of the world. That is worth protecting. We have protected it in blood on more than one occasion. But at this point, we're protecting it by what we put on paper, whether it be laws, policies, or votes. And when however we vote, that's protecting it on paper. Now, Tom was very kind in his introduction. Let me just amplify just a couple of things here. If I had to describe myself in 3 words, and usually my wife limits me to short sentences. By the way, she says, "You're not funny. Don't try any jokes. They all fall flat." And I usually tell that, and I get a chuckle in the crowd, because all of you, I'm sure, advise your spouses of the same thing. I'm a business owner, small business owner in Michigan, have been for 20 plus years, medical equipment business, largely operating room sales and service. I was a commercial pilot for Northwest Airlines for 20-some years, retired. Chances are we might have met on a flight when I was your captain. And I was a Marine. Correct that. I am a Marine. We use the term hybrid now for everything. I'm waiting till they come out with hybrid potato chips, because of the fact I'm sure that they will be healthy for me, but not necessarily nutritious. The idea is that in a hybrid career in the Marine Corps, that means at 7 years active duty on the front end in the late 60s, early 70s, and Tom referenced my tour in Vietnam as a helicopter pilot. But then I got out and joined the reserves and spent about 20-some years in the reserves doing medical equipment, flying airplanes, wearing a Marine Corps uniform. And then in 1998, the Marine Corps decided that they hadn't taken enough of my personal resources yet, if you will, intellectually and physically, and gave me a star, which led to a second star, which led to a third star. And I spent, because of the events of 9/11, ended up spending the last 6 years of my Marine Corps duty back on active duty, so 2003 to 2009. So it's a modern hybrid career. And why that's important is that I'm guessing some of you were guardsmen or reservists, or you employ guardsmen and reservists, and they are in the same situation right now with their service to the country. So I have a pitch here for the Guard and Reserve. You get the finest employees in the world that are members of the Guard and Reserve. And there are challenges as employers as to how do you utilize it. We can talk about that at a future date. I heard the phrase about 5 minutes ago about being a constitutionalist. I am a constitutionalist. The framework that was provided to us some 240-some years ago in the form of the Constitution was the result of intensive study of earlier world civilizations. It was the result of intense debate and eventually decision that led to a framework as the founding fathers believed what needed to be put in writing to give our country the best chance, given historical civilizations, at a long-term, thriving survival. So I am a constitutionalist. I am very fiscally, well, as a Marine, we're cheap, okay, or frugal, but I never wasted my money. By the way, I grew up in a family where we had all the money we needed. Okay, we just didn't need very much. That was how it worked. There was bread on the table, roof over our heads, and plenty of love from my mom and my dad. And my dad's family came to the Upper Peninsula in the 1880s as iron miners from Sweden and Finland. My dad left the UP in the mid-1920s as a 17-year-old after both his parents had passed. And he needed to find work, so he and some of his friends went down to Minneapolis, and that's where he met my mom. And so you know how the rest of that story goes in a lot of cases. So I was born and raised until I was 18 in a little town called Savage, Minnesota, south of Minneapolis. Had to walk about a half a mile to the nearest dairy farm, and I had to walk about 200 yards to the woods. And anyway, I was not born in a log cabin. By the way, the house I lived for the first 12 years of my life had been a barracks at Camp Savage during World War II, where the Defense Language Institute started. Historians looked at it, but the veterans coming back from World War II got first dibs on the barracks at Camp Savage, and so my dad and my uncle each took advantage of an 18 by 36 barracks, bought a lot, put a block of basement on it, and had this barracks moved up there, and that's where I lived until I was 12. And then we moved all the way across the street. So, but it was our dream house. We each had our own bedroom, and we still shared a bathroom. Anyway, having said that, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm very fiscally conservative. I don't waste my money. I don't waste the government's money. And we have plenty of opportunity in this country to reinvigorate our economy, whether we, let's say, number one, go to a market rate corporate tax around the world, whether it be the highest corporate tax rate in the country, stimulate our economy, stimulate our jobs, allow the companies to bring their profits back in here on amnesty or repatriation, whatever you want to call it, to stimulate and do the right thing, because we're going to use the word free in a lot of frameworks, a free market economy. And that's what good free market economies do. And the last thing I would suggest to you that I am is what you think of Thomas Jefferson, I'm sure, has got to be rolling over, and he couldn't have envisioned the Industrial Revolution. But an informed populace who would make good decisions through their representatives. Again, he's got to feel like he's on a barbecue spit. So, having said that, I can tell you about a lot of things, and oh, by the way, there's a chance that you could ask me a question that involves national security issues. I do maintain a high security clearance, and we are not in a qualified building here that I could give you some of the answers that I could tell you, but I can't tell you because of the lack of security in the facility. So I hope you would respect that, depending on the question. All right. So, having said that, let's just open it up. Hear what's on your mind. Okay. First hand was up there. By the way, you're number two, right here.
Age before beauty, okay? I'm a property rights, believer, boss, whatever. And I'm very upset with the situation in Oregon because of the United States owning property. The United States is not allowed to own property. The people own the property. And this whole thing has been over mining rights that the United States has already given away on property that they shouldn't be owning. How do we take back our property and get the United States out of the real estate business?
Okay. In fact, what I'm going to do, can everybody hear me? Okay, so the question is, how do we get the U.S. out of the commercial property business or the property business? I don't know.
I know.
Okay.
The lands in this country are patented, meaning that the United States government gave the lands to the people.
Okay.
And the lands that are in Oregon were patented, and somehow the U.S. government took them back. And they can't do that. We need to take our lands back, and it's as simple, as far as I can see, it's black and white.
So then it has to become a legislative priority, if you will, in the Congress. Yes?
Land patents were signed by the president.
I hate to cut you short, but you're right, and that's a very broad issue that is. All I can tell you is that if you send me to Washington D.C., I am interviewing for a job. Just so you know, Dan Denishek is retiring. The voters in the first district are going to hire someone to represent them in Washington, D.C. I am interviewing for the job. And that means you pay my paycheck. I report to you. So when I'm there, that is the time we begin the dialogue on something like the land, because that is not it's a first district issue, but it is a national issue where we need to go back to in how we make laws, make policies, is from a perspective of the voters who take the time to vote and wish everybody would, but they don't. Take the time to vote and bring the issue to the table through the representatives. I will listen, and I'll be your advocate. I'm your employee there, more than your advocate, but I'll be your voice.
I'd like to know your thoughts on the immigration issue in this country today. What do you do if we had a chance to speak at Congress?
Well, number one, you notice that I already said that my grandparents were immigrants. Okay, they were born in the birth certificate says born in Finland. We are a nation of immigrants. Okay, if we had such restrictive policies back a long time ago, a lot of us wouldn't be here today. We have plenty of policies in place right today. We tend not to use what we have in place. We have challenges. The difference between immigration today and immigration, let's say, even 50 years ago, not necessarily 30 years ago, 50 years ago, is that we have people in the world who figure that they can get into our country and subvert us from within. So the point is, we utilize the policies that we have, put them into place and actually see what happens, figure out a way to in a reasonable time, vet those coming in, and then move forward. Next. Yes, ma'am.
Are you pro-life?
I am pro-life. Yes, sir.
I'm kind of, on my priorities is states' rights. Not so much, what's my going to?
Oh, yeah, here. I'll get rid of it. I promised I would. Thanks. But I got a great memory. It's just short, so I write things down.
Well, I have an argument, is we need to. Open up your mouth. We need to get back to the original definition that we were a federation of states, where the states do the majority of the governing, and the federals only take care of international and interstate things. Are you going to work towards that direction, and removing some of the laws, some of the agencies and so forth that are impinging on us?
That's an easy, thanks for the softball, Pete. That's an easy question to answer. Yes. Okay, yes. The question is states, get the federal government out of the businesses it has migrated into over the course of time. Get them out of it. Bring back to the states, which was originally intended through the Constitution to be in the states. And when you start doing that, when you talk about the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, in all fairness, there are some things that probably need to continue, but they can be done in other departments where they were historically done before. The bureaucracies, folks, are killing us.
Yes.
They're killing us. So, yes, okay, next. Here, go ahead.
I'm a good runner.
What issue or issues prompted you to run? You have to understand that you have no name recognition against two people that have been in the public eye for many years. So something had to say to Jack Bergman why I should run. Tell us what that is.
Great question. In 2003 to 2009, while I was serving in Washington, D.C., I lived there for 2 years, then moved to New Orleans. By the way, we got there just before Hurricane Katrina. I've been told, don't tell long stories. The point is, for 6 years, I maintained an office in Washington, D.C. because I spent about 40% of my time there with my senior leadership duties with the Marine Corps. I understand how Washington works, or doesn't work, from the other side of the table, because I was on the testifying side, while the House and the Senate were asking the questions. We don't change Washington, D.C. We change the type of people that we send to Washington, D.C. Not the people, you're going to change people, but the type. So what do I bring to the table that I believe, well, it's necessary, but it's what drove me to run? Stress-tested leadership, whether it be in a military uniform, flying an airplane in zero visibility in a 25-knot crosswind onto a snowy runway, like right out behind us. Stress-tested leadership over decades. I'm a uniter, not a divider, and my experience of being responsible and accountable for my actions every day. Accountable in this case now, it will be to you, the voters of the 1st District, for what drove me.
All right, we all understand that our nation is founded on 3 primary functions of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. Each is supposed to serve as a check on the other. The Congress has specific responsibilities with regard to the presidency, and the Senate, of course, with regard to the nominations of Supreme Court. You're running for a congressional seat. A couple of years ago, our current representative, put his finger to my chest and told me, we can't control the purse. The president's going to spend the money any way he sees fit anyway. You know, and I, to me, that's advocating his role as a check on the executive overreach. If you could speak to that, please.
I mentioned earlier fiscal accountability. I take responsibility as a business owner, as an individual, for fiscal decisions. You don't change the rules just because that's something you're not comfortable with doing. Maybe you don't understand or you're not comfortable with doing fiscal things. It says right there, as you just stated, the budget is controlled, agreed upon by Congress. Okay, and it's appropriate. I don't believe the president should have the latitude to just spend the money where they want. There are places the money was designated to be spent. That's where you spend it. If there's a reason to change on a particular year, on a particular line item, make the case, and then it's debated and decided. But the idea of presidential, I almost said presidential rule, that sounds like a monarchy. Presidential decision by executive order is not what our country was founded on. That's why we wrote, when you think about the Constitution, but then when you think about the Bill of Rights, that was in direct reference to just coming out from under a monarchy. That's why they were there, okay? Budget, it's responsibility of the Congress. Step up.
Back here.
Well, in relationship to that question, you know, you say the right thing, but first of all, what would you really do about it? The representative we have now, Benachek, was supported by conservatives. He's sent him there. He comes back with a conservative review rating of about 32%, which is lower than some Democrats. So we send you to Washington. Are you interested in joining the caucus, the conservative caucus? How do we know you're going to be a conservative when you get there and get in the system and get brainwashed?
You mentioned the key phrase, brainwashed. My brain's already been washed. It's been washed and it's been hardened. That was my body at a younger age. Okay, my brain has been not softened, it's been broadened by the experiences of life. I'm not going there to join another fraternity. Okay, I'm a member of the greatest fraternity in the world. Other services accepted, and you all have your own, but the United States Marine Corps is the greatest fraternity in the world. I'm already a member of that, and I'm a proud member of that, and always will be. But the point is, I'm not going there to be the junior guy, which I would be, won't be the oldest one to be elected. That was 78, I think, is the record for age in election to Congress. But where you can count on me is that I know when it's time to stand out by fitting in, which is I think what too many people try to do when they go to Washington D.C. for the first time. But I also know when it's time to fit in by standing out. Be an example. I'm an example. You don't know 100% about anyone until you actually put them in the seat and see when they come under stress how well they do. Well, whether I'm flying an airplane, whether I'm leading Marines, whether I'm in an operating room providing support for a surgeon who's got his hands in somebody's brain. And all those three are real scenarios. I've been stress tested already. I don't tend to go with the flow. I tend to do what's right at the right time for the right reason. By the way, life is not a popularity contest.
General,
This is actually two follow-ups to questions you've already answered. The first budget passed by both the House and Senate and signed by Obama was December, and for Obama's administration. And the point was, on your fiscal answer about the budget or the purse strings, us conservatives were very upset that Ryan agreed to this basically 2016 budget that acquiesced past our November elections, funded Planned Parenthood, funded the refugee settlement program, his executive order on amnesty. Now, they tied him up in court, but they still voted for it in the budget process. So the question is, and this is just a straight answer, you don't have to get the mic back, yes or no. Had you been Congressman Benešek's seat in December, would you have voted for that budget to go through, yes or no?
No.
Okay? Now, I'll do a follow-up to it because you'll be able to answer this follow-up as well. Part of that is the answer about immigration. Donald Trump has come out recently, took a lot of flack from saying that he'd like to ban Muslims from entering the United States until we develop some type of security background check where they don't even have computers in Syria. So how do you know whether these refugees coming into our country are criminals or bad guys or whatever? So my point is this, part of that budget that you'll expound your answer on funded the refugee program. So tie the two together and expound on more why you wouldn't have voted for it.
That's a complex question, but let me try. Number one, as I said, I would not vote for the budget. When you have an omnibus, basically everything gets hidden in it. Okay, nobody knows, and therefore then, if you voted for it, say, well, I just voted for the budget. I didn't know, it's called plausible deniability. That's a current term of art, BS. Because the fact that everybody wants to be responsible and say, I'm responsible, when you start holding people's feet to the fire on the accountability piece, you see a lot of little rodents leaving the sinking ship, so to speak. I'm not referring to any of our Congress people as rodents. I want to get that on the record. It's just an analogy that I was used to as a kid. The point is, if I'm flying, I'm going to give you an analogy here. If I'm flying an airplane and I run out of gas, gravity will take over. Okay, and it then determines your landing point. Well, we all get threatened. Well, if we don't pass this budget, the government's going to shut down this, that, and the other thing. That plane's not out of gas. They just haven't managed their flight plan correctly. They need to make some adjustments. So when it comes to, whatever the subject is, but especially, let's say, Homeland Security, immigration, and how those two interact, you can't give your representatives, you can't give your Congress the easy way out by saying, okay, maybe you'll do better next time. I think we're done with seeing how better next time works. And that's what we got to do, just say no.
Can you follow up on the Trump statement about banning Muslims? Do you agree with that?
No, but the bottom line is you have to be able to vet people. There is more, his is either absolute or not. Okay, ban them or not. I would suggest to you there's probably at least a third, if not a fourth way to figure out how to do the vetting process, making sure that the humanitarian issues that need to be taken care of around the world are done so that we do maintain our leadership role in the world, but we have to make sure we secure our borders from the outside and from the inside. That's where I have to be careful when I talk about here this way.
Just two easy ones. Back in June, when the Supreme Court issued the okay for same-sex couples to marry, how did that make you feel? Did you accept it or not? And the other one, we're probably down to 3 Republicans that are gonna, one of them will be our next president, I assume. And who would you support, given what you know today?
Say Hillary at the bottom.
Can I run for president? Is it too late? Number one, I have not made my decision on who I'm going to support for president. I'm going to wait till, like so many voters do. Because of how I am hardwired in here, I make decisions when the time is right to make a decision. Okay? Because my personality is such, I'm hardwired, I'm collecting more data. If you make a decision too early, then there's a significant amount of time you have to make the decision twice. Because something happened to change your viewpoint. So I'm not going to make that decision until I'm ready to make it. Okay? As far as I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and I think the Supreme Court was wasting their time to even get into the business. That's not what they're designed to do.
It's a state issue.
What about the Veterans Administration? What do you think about that?
What about the Veterans Administration? What are you going to do about that? A lot. Number one, get out of the medical business with the exception of behavioral health and prosthetics.
All right.
Okay? Number two, as I said earlier, bureaucracies are killing us.
Yes.
Yep.
So, I can tell you a long answer, but I'm not doing that. I'm telling short answers. We have a whole lot of room to improve all the agencies, but the Veterans Agency, the VA, is right in there on the bureaucratic side. So, number one, get rid of the extra bureaucratic, both on the care side and on the administrative side.
I heard you say something the other night about the Department of Education.
I've already said I'm going to close the Department of Education, the way I said that earlier, right? Okay.
This has nothing to do with the House of Representatives, but I'd like your opinion on it anyway. Apple has been ordered to turn over a proprietary thing to the federal government and to police officers that is actually a privacy issue. And they're getting a lot of flack both in the press saying that they should do it. I personally think that they're standing up for us, and I really like what's going on. I would like your opinion.
My entire career, whether it be, again, flying airplanes or being in the Marines or being involved in operating room activities, has been safety, security, and stability. Okay? When it comes to providing safety, security, and stability in our environment going forward, because we have this new tool that the bad guys use against us every day, their single biggest weapon for our adversaries is the internet. Okay? You can extrapolate that out to cell phones and everything else. Bottom line is, we can privacy our way all the way to personal destruction because the bad guys use it as a tool against us. So, that's a very gray area that needs to be addressed on the national level, that privacy has to maintain, but not at the expense of safety and security.
I promised that gentleman over here.
Just a little on the lighter side, I heard you tell about how you did the war with others down there. I worked on the Saturn missile project way back in the day. Beg pardon? I worked down there on that Saturn missile project. The big deal was, we got paid pretty good. It was a federal contractor pricing corporation. Most of my paycheck got left down in the French Quarter. Wondering how much of yours got left down there and what you did down there.
I wasn't there. Goes on in New Orleans, stays in New Orleans.
You know, did you want an hour or another question? There we go.
Is that a statement, or did you ask?
No, I just asked a question, what'd you do down there?
Oh, when you're done, I'll answer that as part of the next answer.
No, with the Apple issue and our security, what's been happening is the government screws up. They let those people in the country. They didn't follow their own procedures. They've got rules, regulations, and laws. They let them in, and now they want to take away my liberty so we can have more security. I'm all done with that.
After the fact.
After the fact, for your opinion.
It goes right back to the bureaucratic side. You got bureaucracies doing or not doing. Key phrase, not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then under the guise of, okay, we're going to do something now, we're going to force Apple to give us that data, okay? The problem is within the bureaucracies and people at all levels being forced to be held accountable. I really don't care if you've been a government employee for 32 years and you know everybody and how all the budgeting works and all this. If you're not cutting it, I'm of the Jack Welch. Now, if anybody got fired by Jack Welch at GE, I'm sorry. But the bottom line is either you get up to standard or you're gone. Leadership, accountability. You don't want anybody here have any of their kids or grandkids serve in the military? Yeah. The point is, if any were in the Marine Corps, they were taught they don't fight for themselves. They fight for the Marine on their right and their left because that's what the other person on the right and the left are doing. Bureaucrats don't do that. Now, how much money did I leave in New Orleans?
In the French Quarter.
I have no clue. I never went there, but my wife and I moved to New Orleans when we got the 3rd star and took command down there 2 months before Katrina. Okay? We got a little stress tested right there. Okay, bottom line is we had a staff of 800 folks. Multiply that by family members, not even counting the dogs and cats. We had responsible for about 2,500 people. We evacuated. We were gone for 3 months, dispersed the command in the community between Texas, Kansas, and Georgia. We didn't have the luxury of shutting down our business, but we got the families assimilated, put the kids in school, got our work going, and managed to get ourselves back into our offices in New Orleans in 90 days with a lot of help from a lot of folks. But that's leadership, folks. That's leadership.
Hi. My question is Homeland Security, the Homeland Security bureaucracy. Mr. Clinton took away the access of one agency to another back when he was president. And when 9/11 happened, President Bush instituted Homeland Security. And that just created another rivalry between all the agencies. To me, that seems to be, and now it's all militarized. Who knows how many weapons and ammunition they've got stockpiled. And the only way they can use that is against the American people, because they don't have any jurisdiction outside.
They were talking about?
Homeland Security.
As their weapons?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And it militarized so many of our police forces. Okay. My question is, it seems like Homeland Security would be one good bureaucracy to get rid of and open up communications between FBI and NSA and CIA again, so that we can trade information and know what's going on. What do you feel about that?
By the way, I love your questions because they show thought. And the more thought you put into a question, the more complex the question comes. Okay? And that's good. I don't necessarily agree that we should get rid of the Department of Homeland Security because of the different threat that we have today. But the crosstalk and the sharing of information between the different, or among, I guess, because I guess between two, and among is among many, among the agencies, intelligence sharing is getting back to the bureaucracy. Your bureaucracy got money based upon what it accomplished. And if, to use an example, if the FBI got credit for an arrest, they got the money. If the DEA got credit for the rest. They got the money. So there was a built-in incentive not to share. You got to take that out of it so that the agencies who still exist when you're done looking at what should be here and what not be here, is that they are incentivized, if you will. Even if the only incentive is to, if you don't do it, you're fired. Now, that sounded like Donald Trump, didn't it? You're fired. I didn't mean to do that. All right.
I have a question about unemployment and what you would do to create jobs here.
Well, creating jobs in the district. What would you do about unemployment? Well, number one, my dad left the Upper Peninsula because there were no jobs. There was no opportunity. So he had to go somewhere. He ended up in Minneapolis. And I was talking to somebody as recently as yesterday that they expect their children will leave the first district, go find a job, and they hope that someday they will remember why they loved it up here and come back. There are going to be people who naturally leave the first district because their life's plan takes them elsewhere. We need to figure out what job skill sets that we can put into the district that will incentivize companies to come here. So we've done some training for people at, let's say, the high school or tech school level, so that companies who provide clean manufacturing jobs, that those clean manufacturing jobs will then provide a living wage so that our youngsters who want to stay and not want to leave can raise their families.
Is that a role of the federal government, U.S. Congress?
Short answer is no. Federal government, stay out of the way. Stay out of the way, because why would you expect a congressman from Florida to understand the needs of someone in the first district, or vice versa? What our weather is. Okay.
It's a state issue.
Just a couple of observations. Jack and I, we've been talking now for a week. Was it a week ago? We heard that he was on his way up, and we had a chance to talk to him. One of the things that I say to people at meetings, and I go to a lot of meetings, is you should take a look around and see a half a dozen sets of eyes, and in this case, 30-some looking back at you. Get used to seeing these people, because these are the people you're going to be doing things with going into the future. And Jack, I'm so pleased to see you involved in that discussion. Every person you see here, there's probably 30 or 40 who are right with them thinking, and we are all in constant contact. So with respect to the observation that Jack Bergman from who knows where doesn't have name recognition in the 1st Congressional District, I worked with a colleague to help get Tom Stillings elected 2 cycles ago. I've been all over the 1st Congressional District, and I can tell you that there's very little sentiment in the 1st Congressional District to have it look more like Traverse City. So simply being from Traverse City is not going to win anybody's seat in Congress. So Jack, take that as encouragement to stay involved. Just know, folks, we're here today, and we only had a very short while to be here. There's 30 of us. We're going to have the opportunity going forward to be in meetings and be advocates in the future, and I sure am hoping that I'll see you all there when that happens. Thank you.
Are we done?
I give you one more over here. I get closing comments, right?
No.
I get closing, no. Okay.
Perhaps I missed it, but have you announced your candidacy?
That's part of my closing comments. Pardon? That's part of my closing comments.
Okay.
It's a perfect segue. I have not done the grand announcement that I am running for the 1st District. I have done the mini announcement through, as I've met with all the different groups that I am not just exploring. By the way, if you haven't signed my petition to get my name on the primary ballot as a candidate of the Republican Party for the 1st District, I would be appreciative of you signing before you leave. And if you're from a county that is not represented on there, I have more sheets right here to do that other county. But the point is, as a Marine, my job was war fighting, okay? In any war fight, you do a lot of planning first, and then you roll out whatever it is you decide when and where that's going to best help you achieve victory. Now I have some business cards here. They have my name and address, my name and email address and phone number, and they list a website. That website, if you went out there this afternoon, is not going to give you anything. Only because I just inked the deal with the web developer on Friday, and probably on Tuesday there'll be a website there that says under construction. The point is, I felt it was more important to meet as many of the voters in the 1st District to prepare my message, rather than assume that I knew what you were thinking and what was important to you, okay? So the announcement will be public here in March, okay? And it will roll out, and you can look for I'm pushing the web developer real hard, but it'll be a comprehensive website. If any of you are at all curious now after you've seen me here, heard me talk, if you think you know all about me, or somewhat about me, I've made an idea in your mind, I would ask you, when you go home, go into Google search and type in 3 words. Type in General Jack Hair, H-A-I-R. There's a little video out there. Anybody in here seen it? Okay. Well, watch the video, and then you make up your mind. Do you know a little bit more about the person standing in front of you who wants to be your congressman? So with that, I want to thank you. There's nothing else, right? Okay. You want me to say something, Tom? Well, thank you for your being here. Thank you for your great questions. And of course, thank you for your future support.
Okay, we've got the room for another hour. Jack will be here for another hour. Anybody wants to get one-on-one with him and ask him some more questions, that's fine too. The one thing I want to impress upon everybody, Grand Traverse County and the Grand Traverse Bay area are critical to at least split or win if we want to win a primary and a general election for this guy. The other thing is Marquette. He's a Uber. Okay, so you've got Casperson up north, Jason Allen down here, and Pete Battaglia is kind of like the odd man out in this race. But Grand Traverse County, we have to work hard, get his signatures. We're going to have to work to get him to carry this county so that he can win the primary and go up against Lon Johnson or another general named Jerry Cannon. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Johnson because he's got the money. But we have a chance to put a conservative in this seat. Now's the time to take it.